Jin adjusted the straps of his pack and glanced around the busy market of the colony. The air was thick with the scent of alien spices, mechanical oils, and a faint tongue of ozone from hovering vehicles. Traders shouted from stalls, selling glowing fruits, metal tools, and odd trinkets that Jin had no idea how to use. The colony thrived at the edge of explored space, a place where humans and aliens coexisted uneasily. Jin had been here for weeks, mapping minor trade routes and making a few contacts. But nothing had prepared him for what he was about to encounter. He moved past a stall selling mechanical drones, their tiny propellers spinning lazily. His eyes caught movement near a narrow alley where a small crowd had gathered. Curious, he weaved through the people. At the center was a figure that made the crowd tense and step back. She was unlike any alien Jin had seen before. Her skin had a pale green shimmer, like moonlight on water, and her eyes were sharp and intelligent, almost glowing in the dim market light. She carried herself with a silent power, her every movement precise and deliberate. Jin had heard rumors of her. Everyone in the sector knew about Mireille, the girl who was said to be the deadliest fighter alive. Many traders whispered her name in fear. Jin smirked, brushing off the warnings. "Deadliest, huh? Let's see how scary she really is," he muttered to himself. He stepped forward, trying to catch her attention. She noticed him instantly, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she could see right through his intentions. A tense silence fell over the crowd, and Jin could feel the weight of 100 stares. "Are you lost, human?" Her voice was calm, but carried an edge that made him straighten. It wasn't hostile exactly, but it had a warning tone that suggested she could end him in a heartbeat if she wanted. "Not lost," Jin replied with a grin. "Just looking for adventure. Maybe I found it." He gave her a playful nod, trying to appear confident, though a small part of him was already on alert. Mireille tilted her head, studying him carefully. There was amusement flickering in her eyes, though she did not smile. "You talk too much for someone standing in front of me," she said, her tone almost teasing. The market seemed to hold its breath. Jin laughed softly, shaking his head. "I guess I like to test legends. Some say you're the deadliest fighter in the galaxy. I wanted to see if that's true." For a moment, Mireille's expression didn't change, and then she let out a low, sharp laugh. It was not a friendly laugh, but it was not hostile either. "Bold words for someone so close," she said. Before Jin could respond, her movements became a blur. She stepped forward and closed the space between them almost instantly. The crowd gasped, expecting an attack. But instead of striking, Mireille just stood there, her eyes locked on his, challenging him silently. Jin held his ground, a rush of adrenaline surging through him. "You are faster than most," he said honestly, his respect for her skills growing. "But maybe not enough to scare me." He gave her a teasing smile. Mireille's lips curved slightly in a smirk. "You are foolish," she said softly, almost a whisper. "And yet, interesting." Jin raised an eyebrow. "Interesting how?" Mireille didn't answer immediately. She turned slightly, and for a moment her attention was elsewhere, scanning the crowd, her body tense and ready for any danger. Jin noticed how every small movement of hers seemed calculated and precise. Even the way she breathed looked deliberate. There was no one like her, and the stories he had heard only hinted at the truth. She was extraordinary. Suddenly, a merchant's cart tipped over nearby, sending a crate of glowing fruits rolling toward them. Jin reflexively jumped to grab a crate, but Mireille moved first. In one fluid motion, she intercepted it, lifting the crate effortlessly and setting it back on the cart. She didn't touch him, but the sudden display of skill made him pause. "You are quick," Jin admitted, laughing lightly. "I didn't expect that." "I warned you," she replied, her voice calm. She finally looked at him again, her sharp eyes studying him with an intensity that made his chest tighten slightly. "You should be careful. Not everyone finds your kind amusing." He-Jin shrugged, trying to mask his nervousness. "I like a little risk," he said. "Makes life more interesting." Mirei's smirk grew, faint but noticeable. She tilted her head, almost as if she were weighing him, testing him. "Very well," she said finally. "Perhaps you are not entirely worthless." That caught He-Jin off guard. Most people who met Mirei either ran away or froze. He had expected fear, not a grudging compliment. He laughed softly, shaking his head. "I'll take that," he said. The tension in the market slowly faded, but an unspoken challenge lingered between them. He-Jin felt a strange pull, a mix of fascination and excitement. He had teased the deadliest alien girl alive, and she had not struck him down. Instead, she had chosen to observe, to engage. That was more thrilling than any fight he had ever faced. As the crowd dispersed, He-Jin noticed Mirei moving away, but not leaving entirely. She kept her distance, walking beside him in silence, as if deciding whether to allow him to continue existing near her. He-Jin could feel the weight of her gaze on him, not hostile, not friendly, but deeply aware. "So, do we fight now, or is this some kind of dance?" he asked, keeping his tone light, though his heart raced. Mirei's laugh was soft this time, more like a ripple than a roar. "Perhaps neither," she said, "but I will follow for now. Let's see how long your courage lasts." He-Jin grinned, a thrill running through him. He had expected danger, maybe even death, but this was something else entirely. It was a test, a game, a beginning of something unpredictable. He didn't know whether he was ready, but he knew he could not walk away. Not yet. The two of them moved through the crowded market, strangers bound by an unspoken challenge. He-Jin noticed the way she navigated the narrow paths, every step precise, every glance alert. He realized that Mirei was not only deadly, but intelligent and careful, a predator with awareness beyond human understanding. And yet, despite the stories of fear and destruction, there was a flicker of something else in her, a curiosity about him, a subtle amusement at his boldness. By the time they reached the outskirts of the colony, the sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of violet and orange. The streets were quieter here, less crowded, with only the distant hum of engines and the occasional chatter of traders packing up for the day. He-Jin paused, looking at the alien landscape stretching beyond the colony. Strange plants with glowing tips swayed in the wind, and the ground was dotted with jagged stones and pools of bioluminescent water. It was beautiful and dangerous, just like Mirei herself. She stopped beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "This place. It suits you?" she said finally, her voice softer than before. He-Jin felt a warmth spread in his chest at the rare compliment. "Thanks," he replied, smiling. "I guess I'll be sticking around for a while." Mirei tilted her head, studying him. "Perhaps. But remember, human. I do not forgive easily. And I do not forget." He-Jin laughed softly. "Good to know. I like a little danger." For a long moment, they stood side by side, two beings from completely different worlds, bound by curiosity, challenge, and an unspoken understanding. He-Jin knew this was only the beginning. He had teased the deadliest alien girl alive, and somehow, against all odds, she had not killed him. Instead, she had let him leave, and perhaps, just perhaps, she had let him in. As the first stars began to appear in the sky, He-Jin felt a strange thrill. Adventure, danger, and something new were waiting for him. And somehow, he knew that whatever came next, Mirei would be at the center of it. He-Jin followed Mirei as she led him out of the quiet streets of the colony and into the alien outskirts. The terrain shifted quickly, with jagged rocks, glowing plants, and pools of water that reflected the dim light of the rising moons. The air smelled sharp and metallic, carrying the faint hum of strange energy from the ground. Jin felt a thrill run through him. He had been in dangerous places before, but nothing like this. Nothing with me Ray. She moved with grace, her steps precise and silent. Jin tried to keep up, but every time he thought he matched her pace, she would glance back, smirking slightly, as if daring him to fall behind. He laughed softly, his chest tightening with both excitement and unease. Mirei's reputation as the deadliest in the sector was not a rumor. Every move she made spoke of strength, skill, and danger. So, we are really going into this, Jin said, trying to sound casual. Just you and me, walking into the unknown? Mirei did not answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and alert. Finally, she said, "The unknown is safer than you think, if you pay attention." Jin nodded, though he had no idea what she meant. He had learned quickly that following her meant trusting her instincts, even when they led into places that made him nervous. The further they walked, the wilder the landscape became. Strange plants glowed with soft light, casting long shadows across the ground. The air shimmered slightly, and Jin had the unsettling feeling that the world itself was alive, watching them. Suddenly, Mirei stopped and raised her hand. Jin almost ran into her. Her eyes were fixed on a dark shape moving quickly between the rocks ahead. Jin squinted. It looked like a creature, long and thin, with spindly limbs that bent in ways humans were not meant to bend. It hissed softly, a low, chilling sound that made Jin's stomach tighten. "Stay behind me," Mirei whispered, her body tensing. Jin froze, watching as she crouched slightly, preparing to strike. Then, in a movement too fast for him to follow clearly, she leaped forward, her hands and feet moving in perfect coordination. The creature lunged at her, but she twisted and landed on its side, using her momentum to flip it to the ground. A single strike, precise and controlled, and the creature was subdued, its limbs quivering but alive. Jin's mouth fell open. How did you do that?" Mirei stood, brushing dust from her clothing, her expression calm as if nothing had happened. "Control," she said simply. "Speed and awareness. You survive by knowing where to be before danger arrives." Jin shook his head, both impressed and slightly terrified. He had underestimated her skill. He realized then that teasing her had been reckless. But at the same time, he couldn't deny the thrill he felt. There was something magnetic about her, something that drew him in, even when she could have easily ended him. They continued walking, the encounter leaving him both anxious and exhilarated. Mirei spoke little, but Jin tried to fill the silence. "So, is this what you do all the time? Hunt creatures like that?" Mirei glanced at him briefly. "Sometimes. It is necessary. The world is dangerous. You either learn to survive, or you do not last long." Jin nodded. He understood, though the human part of him was still struggling to accept the reality of how dangerous she truly was. He had faced tough situations before, but nothing like walking beside someone who could kill a creature, and possibly him, with a single motion. Night fell quickly, the two moons rising and casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The shadows of the glowing plants stretched long across the ground. Jin's stomach growled. He realized he had not eaten since the market that morning. Mirei noticed but said nothing, simply leading him to a shallow cave formed by jagged rocks. "This will do for now," she said, her voice softer than before. "We rest here." Jin set down his pack and sank to the ground. He watched as Mirei moved around the cave, checking for danger. Every movement she made was precise, every glance calculated. She was deadly, yes, But there was also something human in her actions: care, caution, awareness. It made him feel both safe and nervous at the same time. They sat in silence for a while, only the sound of the wind moving through the rocks, and the occasional distant hum of alien life breaking the quiet. "Hey," Jin finally spoke. "You really are?" "Something else." Mireille turned to him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the cave. "You are foolish," she said lightly, but there was no anger in her voice. "And reckless, yet you have survived this long. That is unusual." Jin laughed softly. "I guess I have luck on my side. Or maybe it's just that I like a little danger." Mireille's eyes softened, just slightly. "Danger is not a game. It is survival." He nodded, realizing that while he had thought this adventure was about excitement, it was also about trusting someone who could easily overpower him. He felt a strange connection forming, a bond built not on words, but on the shared understanding of life and death. As the night grew colder, Jin noticed Mireille shivering slightly. Without thinking, he shifted closer to offer warmth, and she did not pull away. Instead, she curled up beside him, her body almost impossibly light, but the vibrations of her breathing and subtle rumbling made him acutely aware of her presence. It was strange and intimate, and Jin felt a mixture of awe and comfort. "Do you always sleep like this?" he asked quietly, careful not to startle her. Mireille did not answer immediately. Then, in a soft, almost whispering voice, she said, "When it is safe?" "Sometimes. The world is not always safe." Jin nodded. He understood. He had teased her in the market, challenged her, and yet here they were, sharing a moment of vulnerability. It was unlike anything he had experienced. The fear and tension of the day had melted into something quieter, deeper. He felt honored that she had allowed him this closeness, even as he knew it could be fleeting. They stayed like that for hours, listening to the strange sounds of the alien wilderness outside. Jin realized that he had underestimated not just Mira's strength, but her intelligence, her depth, and her subtle humanity. She was dangerous, yes, but also remarkable, and he felt privileged to be near her. As he drifted into a restless sleep, Jin thought about the journey ahead. He had teased the deadliest alien girl alive, and she had not struck him down. Instead, she had allowed him into her world, shared her skill, her caution, and even her warmth. He knew the adventure was only beginning, and he could not predict what would come next. But for the first time in a long while, he felt alive in a way that was thrilling and terrifying all at once. In the quiet of the cave, with the glow of the alien moons filtering in, and Mireille's steady rumbling at his chest, Jin realized that life had changed. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. He would follow her, face the unknown, and survive or die together. And in that moment, he felt the bond between them grow, fragile yet strong, built on trust, courage, and the thrill of the unknown. The deadliest alien girl alive had accepted him, in her own way, and that was more than he could have hoped for. The cave was quiet, but the sounds of the alien wilderness outside never ceased. Strange whispers of wind through glowing plants, and the occasional distant screech of an unseen creature filled the night air. Jin lay beside Mireille, feeling the faint rumbling of her breathing against his chest. It was a sound both strange and comforting, like a steady heartbeat that belonged only to her. He watched her, noticing the way her eyes flickered as she slept lightly, alert even in rest. There was a calm strength in her that made him both admire and fear her at the same time. He had teased her in the market, risked being caught in her deadly skill, and yet here she was, letting him exist beside her, sharing warmth in the cold cave. Jin spoke softly, almost to himself. "You don't have to be so strong all the time. You know. Mireille stirred slightly, but did not open her eyes. Her voice was a soft murmur. Strength is necessary, she said. To survive. To protect. He-Jin nodded, understanding more than he had expected. But can you protect yourself without always being the deadliest? Her eyes finally opened, glowing faintly in the dim light. She studied him, her gaze sharp but not threatening. There is no choice. I am what I am, she said quietly. But sometimes it is nice to rest, even if only for a little while. He-Jin smiled softly. Then rest. You've earned it? For a long time, they lay in silence, listening to the sounds of the night. He-Jin realized that despite her dangerous reputation, there was a loneliness in her. A girl who carried the weight of being feared, yet still had small sparks of curiosity, humor, and perhaps even vulnerability. He felt a strange connection forming between them, one built on understanding and trust rather than words. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the cave entrance. He-Jin tensed immediately, reaching for his side where he kept a small energy blade. Mireille's eyes snapped open, her body coiling like a spring. The growl grew louder, and from the shadows, a large predator emerged. Its limbs were long and thin, tipped with sharp claws that clicked against the rock floor. Its eyes glowed with a fierce red light, and it hissed, baring teeth that seemed almost too large for its body. Mireille reeled away from He-Jin, placing herself between him and the creature. Her body moved like liquid, her limbs precise and controlled. She did not speak, but her gaze locked on the predator, calculating, predicting. He-Jin could barely follow her movements as she dodged, twisted, and struck. The creature lunged, and she flipped over it, landing silently behind it. A sharp strike and a quiet hum of energy sent it retreating into the shadows, wounded but alive. He-Jin exhaled sharply, his heart pounding. You? You really are the deadliest, he said. Awe in his voice. Mireille turned to him, her expression calm, almost proud. Deadliest does not mean careless, she said. Every move is measured. Every action has purpose. He-Jin nodded, feeling both relief and admiration. I can see that now. The predator slinked back into the shadows, leaving the cave silent once more. He-Jin realized then that he had witnessed something few humans ever saw: the raw power, intelligence, and skill of Mireille in action. And yet, she had spared the creature, showing control that went beyond simple strength. Mireille sat down beside him again, her breathing still steady, the faint rumbling returning as she leaned close. You are lucky to be alive, she said softly. He-Jin smiled, trying to hide the adrenaline still pumping through him. Luck had nothing to do with it. You saved me. She did not answer, but the way she shifted closer, allowing him to remain near, said more than words could. For a long moment, they simply existed in that quiet cave, two beings from different worlds sharing a rare moment of peace. Eventually, He-Jin spoke again, his voice careful. Do you ever get tired of being the deadliest? Mireille considered the question, her eyes staring into the darkness beyond the cave. Sometimes, she admitted. Being feared is a shield, but also a cage. I cannot escape what I am, even if I wanted to. He-Jin reached out, lightly brushing a hand against hers. She did not pull away. Maybe. You don't have to escape. Maybe you just need someone to understand. Her gaze softened, and for the first time, He-Jin saw a flicker of something fragile in her eyes. Perhaps, she whispered. They talked quietly for hours, sharing small stories, observations, and thoughts about the worlds they had known. He-Jin spoke of human life, of small adventures on distant colonies, and of moments when he had felt truly alive. Mireille listened, asking questions here and there, her curiosity subtle but genuine. She shared small details of her life, her clan, and the pressures of being feared and respected from a young age. Jin learned about the loneliness behind her strength, the isolation behind her skill. The night deepened, and exhaustion settled over both of them. Jin noticed Mireille shivering slightly in the cool air. Without thinking, he moved closer, as she leaned against him, resting her head on his chest. The soft rumbling of her body vibrated against him, a sound both alien and comforting. Jin felt a warmth spread through him, a connection that went beyond words. "You trust me," he said softly, not sure if he was asking or stating. Mireille's eyes closed briefly. "For now," she replied, her voice low. "I do not trust easily." Jin nodded, understanding more than she knew. Trust was earned, not given, and she had chosen in her own way to let him into her world, if only for a little while. As the hours passed, the bond between them grew. Jin realized that teasing her in the market, daring her, and following her into the unknown had been reckless, yes, but it had also led him to this moment. He was learning the depth of her character, the strength behind her skills, and the subtle humanity that few had the privilege to witness. He drifted into a light sleep, still aware of her presence, the gentle rumbling a steady rhythm that made him feel strangely safe. Mireille remained alert, her eyes flicking open at times, scanning the cave and the shadows beyond. Yet she did not move away from him. She allowed the closeness, the warmth, and the quiet connection to exist. In that night, Jin understood something important. Mireille was the deadliest alien alive, yes, but she was also a girl who could be understood, approached, and respected. Strength did not define her entirely. Her choices, her control, and her willingness to connect did. By the time the first light of dawn filtered into the cave, painting the rocks with soft pink and gold, Jin felt a new sense of purpose. The adventure was only beginning. Danger would follow them, challenges would come, but he now knew that beside Mireille, he could face them. Not as an equal in strength, perhaps, but as a partner, someone who had earned her cautious trust. He reached out again, lightly brushing a hand along her arm. Mireille stirred, but did not pull away. Her subtle response was enough for Jin to feel a quiet joy. He realized that teasing the deadliest alien girl alive had led him to this, an unexpected connection, a bond that could withstand danger, and the thrill of exploring the unknown together. As they finally rose from the cave to face the day, Jin felt the weight of the world outside, but also the quiet confidence that, with Mireille beside him, he could face whatever came next. The deadliest alien girl alive was no longer just a legend. She was real, beside him, and slowly, in her own way, beginning to trust him. And in that shared silence, walking together into the alien wilderness, Jin felt the beginnings of a bond that would shape the adventures yet to come. The first light of the sun touched the alien horizon, casting the rocky landscape in warm gold. Jin and Mireille walked in silence, side by side, through the dense fields of glowing plants. The night had been quiet, but the lessons of survival lingered in Jin's mind. He moved carefully, matching her pace, learning to watch the shadows, and feeling the strange energy of the world around him. Mireille led him through narrow paths between jagged rocks, her steps precise. Jin noticed that she moved almost like she could feel the land itself. Every rock, every plant seemed to respond to her presence. He could not help but admire her skill, her awareness. It was as if the world bent slightly to her control, or she bent to the world, making it safe for her and for him. "Do you always move like this?" Jin asked softly, breaking the silence. "Always," she said without looking at him. "I cannot afford mistakes. One wrong step, 1 second of distraction, and I would not survive." Jin nodded. He had seen that truth the night before. She had spared the predator, yes, but she had also demonstrated a skill beyond anything he had imagined. He realized that her reputation as the deadliest was not a story, it was a fact. And now, walking beside her, he understood that surviving with her required more than courage. It required focus, respect, and trust. The morning air was crisp and carried the faint scent of glowing flora. Heijin's stomach growled, and he realized they had not eaten since leaving the colony. Mireille noticed, but did not comment. Instead, she led him to a small clearing where strange fruits grew along twisted vines. They were bioluminescent, casting soft light even in the morning sun. "Eat," she said simply, breaking the silence. Heijin selected a fruit, examining it carefully before taking a bite. It was sweet, slightly tangy, unlike anything he had tasted before. He offered her one, and she accepted without hesitation. They ate in silence, the moment peaceful, almost domestic. Heijin realized how strange it felt to share food with the deadliest being he had ever known. After eating, they continued moving, the terrain becoming more challenging. The rocks grew jagged, and the glowing plants became denser, forcing them to navigate carefully. Heijin stumbled once, and Mireille's hand shot out to steady him. Their fingers brushed briefly, a small connection, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. She did not comment, but her eyes lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary. Hours passed, and the landscape grew even more dangerous. Mireille's instincts never wavered. She moved like a shadow, quiet and controlled, while Heijin struggled to keep up. Yet, with every step, he learned from her. He learned to watch the shadows, listen to the faintest sounds, and trust his own instincts. He realized that following her was not just about survival, it was about understanding, adapting, and growing stronger alongside her. Suddenly, a distant noise caught their attention. Heijin froze, and Mireille crouched immediately, her body low to the ground. From the distance, shapes emerged, bounty hunters, armed and dangerous, moving quickly through the alien landscape. Heijin's heart pounded. They were here for her, and by extension, him. Mireille's eyes narrowed. "Stay behind me," she whispered, her voice calm but commanding. Heijin obeyed, moving as close to her as he could. He watched in awe as she analyzed the situation, her every movement precise. She directed him silently, pointing with a tilt of her head, signaling when to move and where to hide. The hunters were skilled, but Mireille's control of the terrain and her awareness gave them an advantage. They moved quietly, slipping through the glowing plants and jagged rocks. Heijin followed her lead, trusting her instincts completely. The bounty hunters were relentless, but Mireille anticipated their movements, guiding Heijin around ambush points and traps. She was a predator in her element, deadly and calculating, but also protective. She had chosen to keep him safe, and he felt both grateful and awed. At one point, a hunter spotted them, and Heijin's heart leapt into his throat. Mireille reacted instantly, her body moving like liquid. She dodged the hunter's weapon, disarmed him with a swift strike, and motioned for Heijin to run. He did so, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. Mireille covered him, her movements precise and lethal, until the threat was gone. Finally, they reached a small hidden cave, safer and more secluded than the last. Heijin collapsed, exhausted, while Mireille sat beside him, watching the entrance carefully. The silence stretched for a few moments, broken only by his heavy breathing. "You are amazing," Heijin said finally, his voice low and full of awe. Mireille shrugged lightly. "Survival is necessary. Being amazing is not the goal." Heijin smiled. "Maybe not, but I think you are." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes softening just slightly. "You are different from others," she said quietly. "Most fear me. Most run. You stay. Heijin chuckled softly. I guess I like challenges. Mi-Ray studied him, her expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, she moved closer, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. The faint rumbling of her breathing returned, comforting and strange at the same time. Heijin felt a quiet joy in that simple contact. It was a bond formed not through words, but through trust, courage, and shared experience. They stayed like that for a long while, the dangers of the outside world momentarily forgotten. Heijin realized that Mi-Ray's reputation as the deadliest alien girl alive was not just about skill, it was about control, awareness, and the choices she made. And in choosing to protect him, to let him exist beside her, she had shown a side few ever saw. As the sun climbed higher, Heijin knew that their journey was far from over. There would be more dangers, more challenges, and more tests of trust and skill. But he also knew that with Mi-Ray beside him, he could face them. Not as an equal in strength, perhaps, but as a partner, someone she had chosen to allow near her. For the first time, he felt a quiet confidence. He had teased the deadliest alien girl alive, survived the chase, shared moments of vulnerability, and now walked through danger together. The bond they were forming was fragile but strong, built on respect, understanding, and the thrill of facing the unknown together. And as they prepared to leave the cave and continue through the alien landscape, Heijin realized something important. Mi-Ray was not just a legend or a threat. She was real, beside him, and in her own way, she had begun to trust him. The adventures ahead would be dangerous, yes, but they would face them together. And that made all the difference. The alien sun rose high over the distant horizon, painting the rocky landscape with sharp gold and soft shadows. Heijin and Mi-Ray moved cautiously, their steps careful yet confident. They had survived the bounty hunters and the dangers of the wilderness, and now, with the open outpost ahead, they could finally take a breath. The human settlement was small but sturdy, built on the edge of jagged cliffs and glowing alien vegetation. Traders and settlers went about their business, unaware of the peril and adventure that had passed through the wild lands just beyond. Heijin and Mi-Ray entered quietly, Mi-Ray's eyes scanning the surroundings for any threats. Heijin could see her tension easing slightly now that they were closer to safety. This place feels different from the last colony, Heijin said softly, keeping his voice low. Quieter, safer, maybe even peaceful. Mi-Ray did not respond immediately, her gaze focused on the settlement. After a moment, she said, safer for now. But the world is never truly safe. Only prepared minds survive. Heijin nodded. He understood. He had learned from her that strength was not the only measure of survival. Awareness, intelligence, and trust were equally important. He had seen her skill, experienced her protection, and now he realized the depth of her choices. She was not just the deadliest alien girl alive. She was someone who had the power to shape her world and protect those she chose to care for. As they moved through the settlement, people glanced at them curiously. Humans rarely saw aliens like Mi-Ray, and few dared approach her. Heijin noticed the subtle respect and fear in the looks they gave her. She noticed it too, but did not react. She had grown used to the attention, the whispers, and the cautious distance others kept. Heijin guided her to a small resting area, and they sat quietly. He offered her some food, and she accepted without hesitation. As they ate, the bond between them felt stronger. Days of danger, shared experiences, and mutual respect had built a foundation that neither of them could ignore. Do you ever think about leaving all of this behind? Heijin asked, breaking the silence. The hunting, the fear, the reputation. Mi-Ray looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I cannot leave it behind. It is who I am. But perhaps there is a way to live with it, not just endure it." Hey Jin smiled softly. "Maybe together then. We can face it together." Mirei's eyes softened, a rare vulnerability showing. "Perhaps," she whispered. The peace was short-lived. From the edge of the settlement, distant figures appeared, more bounty hunters, alerted by the last encounter. Hey Jin's heart tightened. He had expected some danger, but seeing them approach in numbers was tense. Mirei's body tensed beside him, and Hey Jin knew they would have to move quickly. Mirei stood, her movements fluid and precise. "Stay close," she instructed. "We face this together, or not at all." Hey Jin nodded, adrenaline surging. They moved silently through the settlement, using narrow alleyways and shadowed corners to evade the hunters. Mirei led the way, her senses sharp, predicting the movements of their pursuers. Hey Jin did his best to follow, trusting her completely, relying on instinct, and keeping pace with her fluid motions. When the hunters cornered them near the edge of a cliff, Mirei reacted instantly. She moved with deadly precision, disarming and disabling 2 hunters before they could react fully. Hey Jin covered her, warding off a third with careful strikes of his blade. Together, they moved as one, a partnership formed through trust, danger, and shared survival. Finally, after a tense struggle, the hunters retreated. Hey Jin and Mirei stood at the cliff's edge, breathing heavily, hearts pounding. The landscape stretched out before them, wild, dangerous, and beautiful. Hey Jin realized that this world would always hold challenges, but with Mirei beside him, he felt capable of facing anything. Mirei's gaze softened as she looked at him. "You stayed," she said quietly. "Most would have run, but you did not." Hey Jin smiled, brushing dust from his clothing. "I stayed because I wanted to, because I trust you, because I believe in us." Her expression changed, subtle but profound. For a moment, she looked like a girl, not the deadliest alien alive. Vulnerable, human, and real. She stepped closer, resting her head lightly on his chest. The familiar rumbling of her breathing pressed against him, steady and comforting. Hey Jin wrapped an arm around her, feeling the strength and warmth of her presence. "You are." "Not like anyone I have ever known," Mirei whispered. "Neither are you," Hey Jin replied softly. They stayed there for a long moment, looking out over the wild lands beyond the settlement. Danger would always exist, but so would trust, connection, and the bond they had forged. Hey Jin realized that he had teased the deadliest alien girl alive, faced the chase, endured threats, and survived nights of revelations. And now she had chosen to let him remain by her side. Mirei lifted her head slightly, looking at him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. "We will face more," she said, a quiet determination in her voice. "But perhaps it will not be alone." Hey Jin nodded, understanding fully. "Together," he said. The alien sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the settlement. Hey Jin and Mirei stood side by side, a human and the deadliest alien girl alive, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store. Their bond was fragile but strong, built on survival, trust, and shared moments of fear and wonder. It was a beginning, not an end. Mirei curled up against him again, her head on his chest, the steady rumble of her body, a quiet reassurance. Hey Jin held her close, feeling the warmth and strength that had both challenged and inspired him from the start. For the first time, he understood fully that this was more than an adventure. It was a partnership, a connection between 2 very different beings who had chosen to trust, survive, and face the unknown together. And in that trust, that quiet moment, he felt hope. The galaxy beyond the cliffs stretched endlessly, full of danger and wonder, but also full of possibility. Heijin knew that whatever came next, he and Mei Ray would face it side by side, stronger together than apart. She was the deadliest alien girl alive. Yes, but she was also his companion, his partner, and in some way, his choice dot. And as the winds of the alien world blew softly around them, carrying the scents and sounds of life and mystery, Heijin held Mei closer. They had survived the wilds, the hunters, and the unknown. They had learned to trust, to fight, and to understand each other. And now, for the first time, they could imagine the future not as threats and legends, but as a shared path forward out in the quiet of the settlement. With the sun rising over strange lands, they both knew that the story was only beginning. The deadliest alien girl alive had chosen him, and he had chosen her. Together, they faced the galaxy, not as hunter and prey, not as legend and fool, but as partners. And that was more powerful than anything else in the universe.